Oh, my dear, listen to me now. Because I know the weight of a heart that has been broken, the sting of a soul that has been betrayed. I know what it feels like to love with open arms, only to be met with coldness. To give your trust so freely, only to watch it be shattered in hands that never knew how to hold something so sacred. I know what it feels like to be used, to be dismissed, to be cast aside by the very ones you thought would cherish you, to be left standing in the wreckage of something you never thought would fall apart. And I know that in those moments, the questions come like a flood. Why, God? Why would you allow this? Why did you let them hurt? Why did you let them walk away so easily while I am left carrying the weight of their cruelty? But, my dear, hear me when I say this. God is not blind to your suffering. He is not deaf to your cries. He is not indifferent to your pain. He sees every tear that falls. He hears every prayer whispered in the dark. He knows the weight of your wounds, and he has not forgotten you. Because, my dear, there is something you must understand about hurt, about betrayal, about the cruelty of others. It does not go unanswered. It does not go unanswered. It does not pass through this world without consequence. When someone wounds a heart that was kind to them, when someone breaks trust that was given in love, when someone treats another with selfishness and disregard, God takes notice, and God does not sit idly by while his children are mistreated. Oh no, my dear, he moves in ways unseen. He works in ways unknown. And while you may not see it now, while you may feel like they have walked away unpunished, untouched, unbothered, trust me when I say God is already at work. Because the thing about God is that he does not repay pain with pain. No, he moves with wisdom. He moves with justice. He moves with the kind of power that does not simply punish, but teaches. That does not simply take away, but reveals. That does not simply balance the scales, but opens the eyes of those who have done wrong. So, my dear, do not waste your days seeking revenge. Do not let your heart become bitter with thoughts of making them pay. Do not spend your nights wondering when or how or if they will ever feel the same pain they put you through, because that is not your burden to carry. That is not your battle to fight. That is not your weight to bear. Trust him, because he is not just a witness to your suffering, he is the answer to it. Small blue diamond, now, let me tell you something. Small blue diamond, listen to me and listen well. Small blue diamond, you may not see it now, but trust me when I say. Small blue diamond, God works in ways we cannot always under small blue diamond, oh my dear. If only you knew how he moves. Oh, my dear, let me tell you something. There is not a single tear that falls from your eyes that God does not see. There is not a single sigh of your heart that he does not hear. There is not a single wound, not a single betrayal, not a single moment of suffering that escapes his notice. You may feel invisible. You may feel forgotten. You may feel like the ones who hurt you have walked away free, untouched and unbothered. But listen to me, God sees everything. There are people in this world who believe they can act without consequence. They believe they can lie, manipulate, betray, and deceive. And that somehow their actions will fade into the past without ever coming back to them. They think that just because they were able to walk away without looking back, just because they never apologized, just because they convinced themselves that they did nothing wrong, they are safe. But my dear, let me tell you something about the God we serve. He is not blind to the injustices of this world. He is not fooled by the smiles people wear to hide their wrongdoing. He is not deceived by the masks they put on to pretend they are righteous. He does not forget the wounds they have caused, the promises they have broken for granted. You may be sitting there asking yourself, why, God? Why did you allow this? Why did you let them hurt me? Why did you not stop them? Oh, my dear, I know those questions. I know them because I have asked them myself. I have felt the ache of betrayal, the deep, hollow emptiness of loss, the sharp sting of being used and discarded as if I never mattered at all. And in that darkness and that sorrow, I have cried out to God just like you. And do you know what he whispered to me? No, I have not forgotten. Because, my dear, God's justice is not like human justice. We want instant justice. We want to see consequences right away. We want to see those who hurt us fall, stumble, suffer the way we suffered. But God moves in His own time. And when He moves, He does so in ways that are far greater than anything we could ever imagine. The ones who hurt you, the ones who took advantage of your kindness, the ones who lied to you, betrayed you, abandoned you, they have not escaped. They may think they have. They may be living their lives as if nothing ever happened, as if their actions have no weight, as if they have walked away unscathed. But my dear, God is not mocked. He is a God of truth, and truth always comes to the surface. Oh, they may pretend, they may push it deep down. They may distract themselves, convincing themselves that they did what was best for them, that they had no choice, that it wasn't their fault. But deep down, where no one else can see, God is working on them. He is showing them their reflection in ways they cannot escape. He is reminding them, whispering to them, making them face the weight of their choices in the quiet moments when no one else is around. You see, my dear, God's justice is not always loud. It is not always immediate. It is not always something we can witness with our eyes, but it is sure. It is unstoppable. It is perfect. And while you are here hurting, healing, trying to put yourself back together, let me tell you what God is doing for you. He is holding you. He is holding you. He is comforting you in ways you do not even realize. And He is preparing something greater for you. Something that will make this pain nothing more than a lesson, a stepping stone, a piece of your past that no longer holds you captive. The people who hurt you do not escape God's sight. The ones who took your love for granted do not walk away unseen. They may not be suffering in the way you expect. They may not be falling apart like you once wished they would. But, oh, my dear, they will face what they have done. Because God does not allow harm to go unanswered. And as for you, your pain is not for nothing. Your suffering is not wasted. God is not only dealing with them, He is also healing you. He is lifting you. He is lifting you up. And one day, my dear, you will look back on this moment and you will see God was there all along, watching, protecting, preparing. So rest easy, my dear. Let go of your need to see justice happen on your timeline. Let go of your desire to see their downfall with your own eyes. Trust that God sees everything, and what is done in the dark will always, always come to light. Because I know the fire that burns inside you. I know the anger, the hurt, the betrayal that sits heavy on your chest like a weight I know how it feels to replay the moments in your mind over and over, thinking about all the ways you could have fought back, all the words you should have said, all the ways you could have made them feel even a fraction of the pain they put you through. I know because I have been there. I have sat in the silence, fist clenched, heart racing, wondering why they get to walk away unharmed while I am left with the wreckage of what they destroyed. I have asked God, why do they get to be happy? Why do they get to move on like nothing happened while I am drowning in the pain they caused? But my dear, listen, God's justice is not like human justice. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are greater than our thoughts. And while we may crave revenge, while we may long to see them suffer the way we have suffered, God does not operate in bitterness. God does not work through rage. God does not settle scores the way we do. Oh, I know you want to see them hurt. I know you want to see them feel the weight of their actions. I know you want to see their hearts ache the way yours has. But my dear, let me tell you something. Revenge will not heal you. It will not take away the nights you spent crying. It will not undo the lies they told. It will not erase the betrayal, the manipulation, the wounds they left behind. Revenge may feel like justice in the moment, but it will never give you peace. Because when you take revenge into your own hands, you are stepping into a battle that was never yours to fight. You are trying to do the work that only God can do. And let me tell you, my dear, his jest is far greater than anything you could ever accomplish on your own. You see, God does not just punish, he teaches. He does not just make them suffer, he makes them see. He opens their eyes in ways they cannot ignore. He turns the very things they did to you into lessons they cannot escape. He makes them walk through storms they created for others. He lets them feel the weight of their own choices, not as a form of revenge, but as a form of awakening. Because, my dear, God is not in the business of petty payback. He is in the business of transformation. He does not just want to punish them. He wants to change them. He wants to make them face their own darkness. He wants to make them confront the parts of themselves they have been running from. And trust me, that kind of justice is far more powerful than any revenge you could ever take. Because you see, what you sow, you will reap. If you plant seeds of deceit, you will harvest betrayal. If you plant seeds of pain, you will harvest suffering. If you plant seeds of selfishness, you will harvest loneliness. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow. But God's timing is perfect. And when the season of reaping comes, they will feel it. And while God is dealing with them, he is also dealing with you. Because, my dear, he does not just want to bring justice, he wants to bring healing. He does not just want to make them face their wrongs, he wants to make you whole again. He does not just want to teach them a lesson, he wants to teach you peace. So let go of the bitterness, let go of the need to see them suffer. That is not your burden to carry. That is not your fight. That is not your weight. Give it to God. Trust him, because his justice is greater than your revenge. And one day you will look back and realize he fought for you in ways you never could fight for yourself. Oh, my dear, listen carefully, for there are truths in this world that many overlook, truths that are written not in the stars, but in the very fabric it exists. When people hurt you, when they betray your trust, when they shatter the pieces of your heart and walk away as though nothing matters, there is a deep and powerful truth you must understand. They will not escape what they have done. Now I know what you may be thinking, and I felt it too. There is that ache in your chest, the burning desire for the ones who have wronged you to face the consequences of their actions. Perhaps they told lies about you. Perhaps they manipulated, abandoned you in your hour of need. You want them to see the pain they caused, to feel the weight of their actions, to stand before you and admit the hurt they left behind. I understand the yearning, my dear. I understand the impulse to demand just to see them suffer as you have suffered. I've asked God the very same question. Why do they get to walk away scot-free while I carry the burden of their wrongs? Why don't they feel the same hurt I feel? Oh, I know it well. I've asked him why they seem to move forward in life unscathed while you are left to pick up the pieces of your broken heart. But hear me when I say this, God does not forget. God does not overlook. God does not allow wrongdoing to remain unaddressed. He is not indifferent to the suffering of his children. He sees, knows, and he will make them face what they have done, whether in this life or the next. You see, my dear, God is not like us. We demand immediate justice, a swift reckoning, an eye for an eye. But God's justice is far greater than what we can understand. His timing is always perfect. You might not see it right now. You might not know how or when it will happen, but trust this, God is not blind to their actions. They may run, they may hide, they may distract themselves with their own life as though they have done no wrong. But the truth is that God will not let them go without confronting their mistakes. It may not happen in the way you envision. It may not come in a moment of dramatic revelation where they fall to their knees and beg for forgiveness. But in his own way, God will make them face their actions. Maybe he will place someone in their path who will remind them of their wrongdoing. Maybe he will allow them to experience the same hurt they caused you so they understand the depth of their choices. Maybe he will open their eyes in a quiet moment of reflection where they cannot escape the weight of what they have done. God's methods are vast and his work is often invisible to the naked eye. But one thing is certain, Those who hurt you will not escape his watchful gaze. And in his time, he will bring them to a place where they have no choice but to reckon with what they have done. This is not about revenge, my dear. This is not about making them feel the same pain you felt. No, this is about justice. This is about truth. This is about the fact that God, in his infinite wisdom and love, knows that the only way they can truly heal is for them to face what they have done and make amends, either to you or to themselves. This process, my dear, is not for you to control. It is not for you to dictate. Your job is not to demand an apology, not to hold on to bitterness and resentment, not to keep looking back and wondering when they will come to you and admit their wrongs. Your job is to trust that God will hold them accountable in his way and his time. And let me tell you, my dear, God's way is always the best way. You might feel powerless in these moments, as though you have no control over what happens to the person who hurt you. But let me remind you that God is working in ways that are beyond your understanding. Even when it feels like they are walking away without facing the truth, they are not free. No one is ever free from the consequences of their actions in God's world. This is why you must free yourself from the burden of seeking revenge to chase them down. You do not need to make them understand your pain. You do not need to carry the weight of their wrongs any longer, because God will deal with them in a way that is far more powerful than anything you could ever do. So, my dear, release them. Let them go. Don't allow their actions to continue holding you captive in the bitterness of what they've done. Trust that even though they may not acknowledge their wrongs now, God will make them face what they are. He will open their hearts, He will open their eyes, and He will lead them to a place where they must confront the truth of their actions. In the meantime, trust that your heart will be healed. Trust that you are no longer bound by their actions, that your peace is not dependent on their remorse. God has already seen your pain. He has already seen their wrongs, and He is at work in ways you cannot see. You are not alone in this, my dear, and those who have hurt you will not escape the truth that God will reveal in His time. Trust Him, for His justice greater than anything you could ever imagine. Oh, my dear, listen to the deepest part of my heart as I speak these words to you. Your pain is not in vain. Your suffering is not without purpose. Though the world may tell you that hurt is something to avoid at all costs, that it is something to fear and flee from, God is using it in ways you cannot even begin to understand. Yes, you heard me correctly. God will use your pain to bless you. Now, I know it sounds like a cruel paradox, doesn't it? How could something as painful as betrayal, as heartbreaking as loss, be the means by which God blesses us? How could God take the very thing that wounds us the deepest and turn it into something good? How could the scars left by others, the ones who caused you to lose sleep, to weep in the darkest hours, ever lead to a blessing? Oh, my dear, I understand the questions. I understand the confusion. I have stood in the ashes of my own pain, wondering how anything good could come from the heartbreak, the tears, the loss. I have wondered in my own moments of agony how I could ever be whole again. I have questioned whether the pain I endured would be redeemed. But hear me when I say this. God does not waste our pain. You see, we live in a world where pain is often viewed as an obstacle, something to be avoided or fixed. People will tell you that life is supposed to be free from suffering, that pain is something that should be eradicated at all costs. But let me tell you, my dear, that is not the truth. Pain is not an enemy to be defeated. It is not a curse to be avoided. It is a tool that God uses to shape us, to mold us, to refine us into something greater than we could have ever been without it. I know that may sound difficult to accept when you're in the midst of your own heartache, when the wounds feel too fresh, when the betrayal feels too raw. But in those very moments when you feel like you cannot go on, when you feel like life has taken more than it should, God is doing a work inside of you. He is using that pain, my dear, to transform. He is using it to grow you, to make you stronger, and to prepare you for the blessings that are yet to come. I know you may think that your pain has only served to break you, that it has only brought you grief and sorrow. But what if I told you that the very thing that feels like it is destroying you is actually the thing that is preparing you for something? What if I told you that every tear you've cried, every sleepless night you've endured, every moment of feeling like the world has crumbled beneath you is part of a divine plan to prepare you for a blessing that you cannot yet imagine? Because, my dear, God uses pain to bring about change. He takes the broken pieces of our hearts and turns them into something beautiful. He doesn't waste a single tear. He doesn't allow a single moment of suffering to go unnoticed. Each moment of growth, a moment of learning, a moment of becoming who you were always meant to be. The pain you've endured, the betrayal you've faced, the heartbreak you've suffered, it will not be wasted. God is working in ways you cannot see, preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. The hurt that you feel right now is not the end of your story, my dear. It is merely a chapter that will lead to a greater testimony. Have you ever noticed how the most beautiful diamonds are formed under pressure? How the brightest stars shine the most brightly in the darkest of skies? So too, my dear, does God allow you to be shaped and refined through your pain. He allows you to experience the depths of sorrow, only to raise you up into something more brilliant, more resilient, more compassionate. But God does not only use pain for personal growth. Oh no, He uses it for the benefit of others as well. He uses your testimony to bless those around you. He uses the pain you have endured to help others find hope. When you have walked through the fire and come out on the other side, you become a beacon of light for those who are still in the dark. You become a living testament to the truth that pain does not define you. God's power to heal does. I have seen it in my own life. I have seen how God's used the very things that were meant to break me to make stronger. I have witnessed how the hardships I've endured have opened doors to new opportunities, new relationships, new levels of understanding and compassion. I have seen how my own journey of healing has allowed me to help others heal, and I know, my dear, that the same is true for you. Do not let the pain of today blind you to the blessings of tomorrow. Do not let the betrayal, the heartache, the loss rob you of the beauty that will come from it. You may not see it now, but I promise you that in time, the very thing that hurts you will be the thing that blesses you. The very thing that feels like a curse will become a part of your crown. And when you look back on it all, you will see how God has used it to bring you into a place of greater peace, greater love, greater strength, and greater joy. God does not waste pain, my dear. He redeems it. He transforms it. He turns it into something beautiful. And while you may not understand it now, while you may not see the purpose in your suffering, I promise you that God is working behind the scenes. He is using your pain to bless you. He is using it to shape you into a vessel that will carry His love, His grace, and His healing to others. So, my dear, hold on. Hold on through the pain. Hold on through the heartache. For God is with you, and He is using this moment to prepare you for the blessings that are yet to come. And when you look back, you will see that everything you went through was not for nothing. It was for something greater. It was for your healing, your growth, and your future. Trust in His plan, trust in His timing, and trust that He is using your pain for His glory. Oh, my dear, my heart aches for you as I speak these words. I know the depth of pain that can come when you feel abandoned, when the world seems to close in around you and it feels as though no one is there to hold you up. I know the sting of loneliness, of looking around and feeling like you're standing in a room full of people, yet still feeling as if you're invisible. I know what it feels like when your pain becomes your only companion and the weight of it makes it difficult to breathe, let alone move forward. But I am here to remind you, with all the love I have, that God will never allow you to suffer alone. You may feel that you're walking this road all by yourself, that the world has turned its back on you. But in the deepest, darkest moments of your struggle, God is there. He is with you in the pain, the tears, the quiet moments of despair. When the storm rages and it seems as though the winds of life are too much to bear, God is standing beside you, His hand stretched out to lift you from the darkness that surrounds you. I know, my dear, that in the depths of your suffering, it can feel as though God is distant, that His presence is a whisper that you cannot quite hear. When you are in the trenches fighting your battles alone, it's hard to feel his closeness. It's hard to believe that he is walking with you when your heart is heavy and your spirit is broken. But hear me when I say this: God is never more present than in the moments of your deepest hurt. He is with you even when you can't feel. Sometimes, my dear, the hardest part of pain is the feeling of isolation that accompanies it. We begin to feel as though no one understands, no one cares, and no one is willing to walk this path with us. But this is a lie. The enemy wants you to believe that you are alone, that you must carry this burden by yourself. But the truth is that God is always with you. He is there in the quiet moments when you weep in the night. He is there when you struggle to put one foot in front of the other. And He is there when you feel like you can't go on. You see, my dear, God does not leave His children in the middle. He walks with you every step of the way, even when you cannot see Him, even when you feel He is far away. He is closer than you know, His arms ready to embrace you, His heart ready to comfort you. And though the pain may feel unbearable in the moment, I promise you God is using it to draw you nearer to Him. Think about it. When you suffer, when you experience the weight of the world on your shoulders, you begin to search for answers, for peace, for solace. And in that search, God is there, whispering to your heart. He is drawing you closer, helping you find the strength you need, not just to survive, but to thrive. My dear, God does not promise that we will be free from pain or suffering, but what He does promise is that He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He will be with us through every trial, every tribulation, every storm. In those moments when you feel abandoned by the world, know that God is holding you. He is walking beside you and He is carrying you when you cannot take another step. In the moments when you feel most alone, I encourage you to turn your heart toward Him. Seek Him with all that you have. When the weight of the world threatens to crush you, look to Him for strength. You are not alone, my dear, and you will never be. For God is a refuge in times of trouble, a shelter in the storm, a comfort in your pain. When you feel abandoned, God will remind you that you are His child and you are loved beyond measure. There may be times when God feels silent, when it seems like He is not answering your prayers, not responding to your cries. But remember this: God's silence does not mean He is absent. It means He is working in ways that you cannot see, preparing you for something greater. When He is silent, He is still there, holding you close, loving you in ways that go beyond words. It is in the silence that God often teaches us to trust Him more deeply. He wants you to rely on Him, to surrender your pain, your doubts, your fears to Him. It is in the moments of silence that He can truly speak to the depths of your heart, offering you peace that surpasses all understanding. So, my dear, do not despair in your loneliness. Do not believe the lie that you are alone in your suffering. You are not alone. He is in the midst of your pain and He is bringing you through it. Trust Him. Lean on Him. You may not understand the purpose of your suffering now, but I promise you, God will use it for His glory and for your good. Remember that God never allows His children to suffer without a purpose. Even when it seems like there is no way out, even when it feels like you are walking through the valley of the shadow of death, God is right. And He is using every moment of pain to draw you closer to Him, to refine you, to make you stronger, and to prepare you for the blessings that are yet to come. God will never allow you to suffer alone. You are His beloved and He will always be. No matter how dark the night may seem, no matter how heavy the burden you carry, know this: God is with you, will never fail. In the journey of pain and hardship, remember that God is always by your side. He never allows you to suffer alone. Even when the world feels silent and the weight of your heartache feels too much to bear, God's presence is unwavering. He walks with you through every trial, offering strength, comfort, and healing. Trust in His timing, lean into His love, and know that through your suffering, He is working to bring you closer to your true purpose. Your pain will never go unnoticed, and you will never be abandoned in your suffering. Keep faith, for God's love and presence will always guide you through.